Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us for this Facebook Q&A. We've got Brad Little. Brad, do you want to just explain a bit about what your job role is at Facebook?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I think there's one session after this, so thanks for sticking with us. My role at Facebook is to lead a lot of our relationships with some of the biggest advertisers from our base here in the UK in London. I've been in the UK for about 8.5 years, the last 3 of which have been at Facebook. And hopefully we'll get into also some discussion about proving impact, because I spent about 12 years at Nielsen before coming to Facebook and a little time at McKinsey. So I'm also happy to talk about the maths behind some of this stuff as well.
That's good. So if we start with, how has consumer attitude changed that's led to Facebook being such a massive thing for businesses?
Yeah, I mean, the story for us, and I think really not for us, but for the consumer right now, you'll come to a conference like this and you'll hear some pundit or someone like me talk about mobile. It's the year of mobile. It's been the year of mobile for the last 5 years or 10 years or whatever. The truth is I see 3 major things happening. The first is the mobile thing already happened, but there was this really big shift from desktop to mobile. So it's about 50–60% of internet use time in this country is now mobile. So mobile is the biggest part of digital use in this country. But really, you got to dig into that. What are people doing on mobile? About 80% of the use on mobile is in the top 3 apps that people have on their phone. The average consumer has about 27 apps on their phone, but they use 80% of their time in mobile and 60% of their time on the internet in those top 3 apps and 50% on the top 1 app. So it's not that people are using tons of apps and everyone should go build an app. What it is really that people are just using a few apps and they're spending almost all of the digital time in a few core apps. We're blessed enough to be a couple of those. So the first real shift is desktop to mobile. That's something that is really profound. So if you're talking about digital transformations or digital strategy, I would encourage you to start talking about mobile strategy, because that's what digital is. The second thing is this kind of shift from text to visual communication. I think you've heard it from some other panelists or Q&A folks today as well. The human brain can process imagery and video about 60,000 times faster than text. So if I just flashed you an image right now, you'd be able to understand what that image is a lot faster than you would read about it. And so what you see on platforms like Facebook or Instagram or even Twitter or YouTube, et cetera, is just this kind of visual communication taking the place of text-based communications. And then the third, when you're thinking about what people are doing on the internet today, they're doing digital, but they're really doing mobile, and they're doing mobile apps. And the place you start in a mobile app isn't in the world of search. So we're seeing a big change from this concept of search to this concept of discovery. And I think discovery is a really interesting point. It's probably a little bit higher up the funnel of a consumer journey or a marketing funnel. But what's happening is people's time are remaining consistent, and the amount of content they have access to, for example, on their phone or the internet, is vastly increasing. So you have things like Facebook or Instagram where they have algorithmically based feeds. So companies like Facebook decide, kind of what we're going to show people, and those feeds kind of put the right content for each user in front of them. And so you're really going from a shift in user behavior to going to the internet to look for something that you know what you're looking for, search, to going to the internet for certain destinations, and then content coming to you, discovery. So I think that the first one is it's all about mobile, the second one is it's all visual, and the third one is it's all discovery.
So what does this mean for dealers?
Well, what it means for dealers is, I think first is, what does it mean in the automotive industry, perhaps for kind of Facebook? What I would say there is, following that consumer journey, it's not too dissimilar what you've heard from some other folks today. Where I think is the really exciting opportunities is, for a while, we've probably been working with the sector at the awareness phase or kind of launch phase. We have enormous reach. About 29–30 million people in the UK come to Facebook every single day, which is, just massively huge scale. And they spend about 42 minutes, 43 minutes on average every single day on the site, coming back about 14 times on average per day. So it's an enormous audience. Instagram, another one of our apps and services, is about 14 million users in the UK. So one is it's really big reach. So from the awareness stage and from the kind of brand launch stage, we've been working for a long time. What I think is changing, and it's getting a lot closer to what is most interesting to dealers and certainly some of the OEMs and manufacturers, is kind of leveraging about half of all Facebook revenue is from direct response advertising. Even with that massive reach, it's been a really effective channel at driving conversions. And what we've learned in kind of e-commerce and retail and travel and some of the other sectors, we've now applied with the lens of understanding more and more of the automotive industry and built some products that are great for consumers and really enhances their value and reduces the friction for them of learning about cars and coming in to test drive and buy a car, and getting much more precise in being able to drive really high quality leads with really high scale, with that reach and the data that Facebook and Instagram have, really high scale, and then being able to prove and be accountable to the conversions. So to answer the question more specifically for a dealer, what's going on? For a dealer, it's probably more exciting at the mid and lower ends of the funnel. The first being kind of our lead ads, which is helping identify the people that are predictively most likely to convert. And it's optimizing on them, not just the people who are going to submit or click through to be a lead, but we can optimize in kind of placing that ad for people who are most likely to convert into a test drive or a sale. And then local ads, local awareness ads are things are actually in beta right now, but literally just coming out, enable a dealer to use the geolocation of a mobile phone to find consumers that are highly predictive to convert, for a local dealer or group to serve an ad dynamically to that user, and then they could literally call right from their phone and book a test drive, or be shown exactly where to drive down the street and come into a showroom where dealers certainly know once they're there how to convert those people into a new car. I'd probably be remiss if I didn't also talk a little bit about used. There's a lot of aging stock, unfortunately, sitting on lots that the industry doesn't really want there. And what we've learned in other parts of Facebook, we have ad units called dynamic product ads, where we take, for example, the entire catalogs of eBay or Amazon, the entire stock list at a dealer or a dealer network, and we can then dynamically find which used car stock or car would be most attractive to each individual user as they come on Facebook, and therefore drastically increase conversions at a very low CPM.
So the thing I keep hearing from dealers is that their main focus with social media and with Facebook is engagement. But we were having a little chat off stage, and you're saying engagement shouldn't be the focus?
Yeah, I mean, so I'll put my almost Nielsen and previous life hat on. I've got about a decade, reams of data, and a decade of experience in the data that Nielsen will show you from, reams and reams and reams of data, is that, these digital metrics like clicks, like engagement rates, there's actually an inverse correlation or very little, if any, correlation between engagement rate and sales, almost across any category. And I think that the digital metrics that we've been chasing, likes, fans, followers, clicks, shares, they're driving, if you go out and try to buy the clicky people, you will find something that's predictive for being clicky, not necessarily predictive for being a customer. So what we try to base everything we do as a business is making sure that we're both driving value for the people who use Facebook every day, and enhancing their experience, and then most importantly for the clients we work with, to focus on driving true business value. So for a dealer or a dealer group, that's going to be a lot closer to showroom traffic. It's going to be closer to conversions, car sales. It could be things like aftermarket sales, service, parts, accessories, where there's high profitability and really good business drivers for our clients.
Have you got any predictions for the future of Facebook? What's coming next?
What's coming next?
Any secrets as well?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's too secret. I think if we think about what is Facebook, kind of thinking about its strategy going forward, there's a couple of core things. One is we're really focused around what we call people-based marketing, right? So there's a lot of words you'll hear about, using cookies and attribution and all of these things. We want to attribute to business outcomes, and we have the luxury because when people log into Facebook or Instagram, whatever, they log in with the same user ID in every device. So this concept of trying to attribute or tie together cookies or tie together, understand people's different devices and different browsers from all these different devices is something that we're in a luxurious position to have less concern with. We have a unique login every single device. So that's really powerful. So one is, the backbone of understanding what people do increases efficiency, increases, delivering the audiences that are on target versus off target, very little wastage, very high ROI. That's kind of from an advertising and kind of a marketing strategy mentality. From a company strategy, I think in the next 1 to 2 to 3 years, we're really focused on making those channels and those apps and services, hopefully, for anyone looking down right now is probably using right now, I hope. Really executing well on the things that we can control and making those user experiences really, 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 really good. In the next 3 to 5 years as a company, what we're focused on is the next level of apps and services. So, for example, we're working really hard on things like WhatsApp, Messenger, and Oculus. In the next 5 or 10 years, it's almost an amazing thing to say out loud, but Mark Zuckerberg, our founder and CEO, is really focused on bringing the company to the next set of internet users and really producing kind of fundamental world change, if that doesn't sound too ridiculous, which is about 1/3 of the world is online and 2/3 of the world isn't. And McKinsey study will say for every 10 people we bring in the world online, one person becomes not impoverished or comes out of poverty. So the mission of Facebook is to make the world more open and connected and give people the power to share. So I think the Facebook mission driver is to really connect the rest of the world. So in that mission, I think it's very connected. Two things I think the automotive sector is probably talking the most about. The first is Oculus and Oculus Rift and Oculus Gear. So these are virtual reality and augmented reality environments. And the automotive industry is quite interested in it. You could potentially be test driving a car before it's built, or in a showroom and having a really immersive experience about customizing the car just the way you want it virtually, and then it obviously gets put on the production line and built. So those are pretty interesting opportunities, and they're already happening. The second, I would say, that is actually probably a little bit more tangible and something I would encourage every dealer or group to do now would be to have a think about where Facebook Messenger can play within your business. Dealers have for a long time had the potential for strong one-to-one relationships with consumers. And the Facebook Messenger platform now has nearly 1 billion users a month, 700 or 800 million a day. And that platform has grown exponentially. And we're building that as a platform, meaning we've opened it up to developers to start to enable businesses and companies to build relationships with consumers in a one-to-one way, but at real scale. So a use case could be, someone buys a car from a dealer, and the dealer can immediately use something like Messenger to follow up and remind people to come in for service. What we see in the channel that it's most used for now, email, is that costs are going up and open rates are going down pretty drastically. And something like Messenger is a much more user-friendly and effective channel to build a longer-term relationship with a customer and provide that service and also drive cross-sell and upsell.
I'm guessing that's when all these guys go home, that would be your first bit of advice. But is there anything else that they can easily do to sell more cars through Facebook?
Yeah, so there's a couple things I would do. One is the lovely discussions that happen between dealers and groups and manufacturers and kind of OEMs. So one is if I'm a dealer, I would be pushing really hard that my kind of corporate or central team or OEM team is really adding Facebook with that scale, that reach, and the accountability. I would want to know that anything I contribute into that or anything that is delivering me a lead is not incentivizing where much of the rest of kind of digital is incentivizing kind of the number of leads, but that's not always the quality of leads. And it's not always leads that convert. And so there are companies out there that are being incentivized to just increase volume and not necessarily increase car sales. And I don't think the two are always perfectly correlated. So I would be encouraging the awareness drivers, kind of that warming up the top of the funnel to be happening from the OEMs. The second thing I'd be doing is to be encouraging them to be using some of the very sophisticated new lead ad units from Facebook, which would enable a high volume of much higher quality leads than I think the industry is used to, so that the dealer can be pretty excited about the high quality and high volume of leads that are coming from a central team. From a dealer group or a dealer perspective, I would then also not be sitting on the sidelines in any way. I'd very much be testing, adapting, and learning, and having a go with some of the Facebook local awareness and lead ad units, which will enable, from a very local perspective, not only to drive high quality test drive leads and measured through to conversion, but also some things that we're just releasing in beta right now, which is estimated store visits. So ultimately, we'll be able to build kind of perimeters around dealerships, literally of the lots. And as people, are exposed to those ads locally from a dealer, and then they come into the showroom, when that mobile phone that's logged into Facebook crosses that perimeter, we know that we've driven that traffic into the showroom. And therefore, there's a really accountable level of attribution that you guys can make to a platform like Facebook. So my advice, push from the center, experiment from the dealer or the group, and make sure that you're holding yourself accountable to business metrics and not social and digital metrics.
So you guys own Instagram as well.
Yep.
And I think, well, for me personally, I don't know about you guys, but that's the one that sort of has the biggest question mark about how do you convert that into sales. I don't know if you have any advice for people using Instagram.
Yeah, so it was a question how many users are using Instagram? Is that the question?
How
do we prove that it works?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the same way. So the same targeting and kind of capabilities of data that exist on Facebook, they also exist on Instagram. So the Instagram community in the UK is around, it's probably larger than this, but publicly it's about 14 million users. It's very, very, very strong in that kind of millennial and then the older millennial audiences, but it's at 14 million, it's a very broad audience altogether. And the same attribution and data analysis and measurement techniques that are happening on Facebook also happen on Instagram. And when you're running a campaign in Facebook, you can also literally, in some of the tools you use to book those campaigns, tick a box, and Facebook will algorithmically determine if that audience is easier or better or cheaper reached on Instagram than it is Facebook. So we're taking a lot of the effort and pain and kind of confusion out of the hands of people who are looking to do these campaigns, and they can just work across both platforms. And what's so powerful is the ability to uniquely reach people and kind of automatically in the buy dedupe across both platforms. So all you're doing is extending your reach and increasing the likelihood that you can drive more conversions.
Do you know how many people in the UK are on Facebook?
How many people in the UK, we have about 29, 30 million people every single day, about 37 million people a month. And again, between Facebook and Instagram, it's nearly an hour a day they spend on the platforms. So it's a remarkable amount of time that I can tell you we're working very hard to continue to earn the right, because the most valuable thing that the consumers will do with Facebook is give us the time. So we have to make sure that that environment is one that really draws them back.
It's got a surprisingly wide demographic as well, hasn't it?
No, I mean, it's something like, I forget exactly what it is, but Office of National Statistics, I think, says something like 26, 27 million people online, 18 plus. Of course, Facebook is 13 plus, and we have 37 million people. So I think it's something like 70 or 80% of people online in the UK are on Facebook. And a vast majority of those, as I've given you the statistics, are on it every single day. So I think when you look at a Nielsen number or a ComScore number or data that I've been involved with in my past career, and you look at like a monthly active user, there are other platforms, maybe not as big as Facebook, but that feel pretty big. But when you look back at how many of them come back every single day and how much time they spend on the platform, Facebook is a remarkably kind of engaging platform.
So it's almost like having someone walk into your forecourt for an hour a day.
Yeah, I mean, it's an amazing thing, and actually that time that consumers come and the frequency with which they come back is actually increasing quarter on quarter and year, even in a very mature market like the UK.
Thank you, Brad. That was really interesting. If we could have a round of applause for Brad Little.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for coming today. We have got our Brexit debate coming up in 5 minutes, so if you hang on, you'll be able to hear all about the industry. And thank you again, Brad.